I was sitting at the kitchen table with my coffee, the one spot in the house where the morning sun still managed to find me. I don't usually pick up calls before 9, but when I saw my daughter's name flashing on the screen, Clara, I felt that old mix of love and anxiety that only she can stir up. "Hey, Mom," she said, cheerful. Too cheerful. She never calls this early, and not with that voice. "Morning, sweetheart." "You sound awake," I said, half laughing. She giggled, but it was the kind of laugh that sounded rehearsed. "Yeah, well, big day ahead. Listen, I wanted to tell you something before I forget." My stomach tightened. When she starts a sentence like that, it's never good news. Last time it was, I took a loan in your name, but it's temporary, and before that, I crashed your old car, but insurance will cover it. I tried to sound calm. "What's going on?" She hesitated, just for a second, and then she said it so casually that I almost thought I misheard. "We're going tomorrow, Mom." "I've sold your beach house," I froze. "You what?" "Oh, don't get upset," she rushed. "It's been sitting there for years and you never go." "I found a buyer who offered more than we thought we'd ever get. It's a blessing." I put my coffee down because my hand was shaking. "Clara, you sold my house, the one in Clearwater." "Yes, but it's fine. I handled everything. You'll thank me later when you see the check. That's when it hit me. She wasn't talking about me getting that check." Her voice was bubbling with excitement, but not the kind that comes from helping your mother. "Clara, that house is in my name. You can't just sell it," I said, keeping my voice low, though I could feel my pulse pounding in my ears. "Technically," she said, that word stretching out like a dagger, "you gave me power of attorney when you went into the hospital last year. So, it's all legal." I went silent. My mind flashed back to that hospital bed, to the moment I signed those papers because she said she'd take care of things. I never imagined she'd take everything. "Mom, are you there?" she asked, her tone shifting slightly, less confident now. "I'm here," I said quietly. "I just need to think." "Well, don't overthink," she said with a laugh. "You'll love where we're going next. You'll finally get some real sunshine again." I hung up before she could say more. I sat there for a long time, staring at the old family photo on the fridge, me, her father, and Clara as a little girl on that same beach she just sold. The waves behind us, the laughter frozen in time. I whispered to myself, "You have no idea what you've done, Clara." Because what she didn't know was that the beach house wasn't the only thing in my name. The next morning, I drove to Clearwater. I told myself I just needed to see it one last time, but truthfully, I was still in shock. My hands trembled the entire drive, not from age, but from the kind of anger that settles deep in your chest, the kind that doesn't shout, it just burns. That house wasn't just a building. It was where I became myself again after years of being someone's wife, someone's mother, someone's caretaker. I remember when my husband, Tom, first saw the place. It was a wreck, chipped paint, leaky roof, porch half gone. But he smiled at me like it was already ours. "It's got bones," he said. "We'll fix her up." And we did. Every wall, every plank, every nail. We touched it together. After he died, I couldn't step foot in it for months. Then one day, I packed a bag and went anyway. I sat on the porch, listening to the sea hit the rocks, and for the first time since the funeral, I cried without hiding it. That house became my safe place, the only corner of the world where grief felt bearable. When Clara grew up, she used to love that place too. She'd run barefoot on the sand, chasing crabs and begging her father to build sandcastles taller than her. I can still hear her laughter echoing in the halls. But somewhere along the way, she changed. Maybe I did too. Money became something she talked about like it could heal things, like it could fill the holes that love couldn't. I should have seen it coming when she started calling it that old place. When I pulled up to the beach house that day, the gate was still the same rusted iron I'd never gotten around to fixing. The air smelled like salt and home. I stood there for a while, staring at the white shutters we painted one summer afternoon, when Tom got sunburned and kept joking that the house was blushing with him. But then I saw it, a for sale sign staked right in the sand by the mailbox. Not pending, not sold, just bold red letters. My name was still listed at the bottom as the owner. I walked up the steps and unlocked the door. The hinges groaned like they were surprised to see me. Inside, everything was just as I left it. The faded rug, the sea glass jar by the window, Tom's old hat hanging on the rack. My chest ached. How could she sell this? How could she walk through here and not feel what lived in these walls? Then I noticed the folder on the kitchen counter. Real estate papers, a few notes scribbled in her handwriting. I picked it up and saw the buyer's name, the offer amount, and something that made me pause. It wasn't final. The deal hadn't closed yet. There were still signatures missing. That's when something inside me shifted. She thought it was over, that she'd gotten away with it. But she was wrong. Because if this house taught me anything, it's that some things are worth fighting for, especially when they think you're too weak to fight. Clara showed up at my house that evening like nothing had happened. She breezed in wearing sunglasses, even though it was almost dark, talking a mile a minute about packing boxes and new beginnings. "Mom, I thought I'd come by and help you start getting things together." "The movers can take care of the heavy stuff tomorrow," she said, walking straight to my fridge like she owned the place. I watched her pull out a soda and pop the can open. "You mean for the beach house?" I asked quietly. She turned to me, smiling that bright, careless smile I used to find so beautiful. "Of course. We're moving out early so the new owners can come by next week." "We're moving out?" I repeated, the words sticking in my throat. "Yeah," she said. "I figured you'd want to stay with me and the kids for a bit. You've been alone out there long enough." That's when it hit me. She wasn't just selling my house. She was trying to move me out of my life. I leaned back in my chair, my hands gripping the sides to stop them from shaking. "Clara, sit down." She hesitated, clearly not expecting that tone. She sat across from me, taking a small sip of her drink. "I went to the house today," I said. Her eyes flickered. "You did?" "Yes. I saw the sign. I saw the papers." I paused. "I also saw that the sale hasn't closed yet." She blinked, caught off guard for the first time. "Well, yeah, I mean, it's just a formality. Everything's been agreed on. It's basically done." "It's not done," I said sharply. "Not without my signature." Her smile faltered. "Mom, please don't make this harder than it needs to be. You never go there anymore, and the taxes are insane. You're sitting on an asset that's just rotting away." I stared at her. "That's how you see it? An asset?" She sighed and looked away. "I'm trying to be practical. I'm doing what's best for both of us." "For both of us," I repeated. "And where does the money go, Clara? Straight to this buyer you found? Or straight to you?" Her lips tightened. She didn't answer right away, and that silence said more than any words could. "You're lying to me," I whispered. Her head snapped up. "I'm not lying. I needed to take care of some debts, okay? I didn't think you'd understand debts," I said. "Whose debts?" She didn't answer, just stared down at her soda, tapping the can nervously with her finger. I felt my heart break, not because she betrayed me, but because she didn't even seem sorry. She was rationalizing it like stealing from me was a form of love. "Clara," I said quietly, Your father built that house with his hands. Every corner of it has his fingerprints. And you, my voice cracked. You just sold it like it was a used car. She pushed her chair back abruptly. You don't get it, Mom. I'm trying to save us. The world's different now. You can't just hang on to old memories like they're gold. We need money to live. I stood slowly, meeting her eyes. No, Clara. You need money to live. I already know how she grabbed her bag, flustered. You'll thank me later, she said, heading for the door. You always overreact at first. I didn't stop her. I just watched her leave. Watched the child I'd once rocked to sleep walk out like a stranger. The door clicked shut, and the silence that followed felt heavier than anything I'd ever heard. I sat down again, stared at the empty soda can on my table, and whispered, You just sold the wrong thing, Clara. Because what she didn't know was, I'd already made a call to my lawyer that morning. By the next morning, I'd stopped shaking. Anger has a strange way of sharpening you once it settles. It turns from fire into ice. I woke up early, made myself a strong cup of coffee, and called Daniel, my lawyer. He's been with me since Tom passed, a quiet man who doesn't waste words. When he answered, I told him everything: the call from Clara, the power of attorney papers, the attempted sale. He was silent for a long time. Finally, he said, You gave her durable power of attorney while you were in the hospital. That means she can technically sign for you, but it doesn't mean the sale can go through without oversight, especially if you revoke it before it closes. Can I do that? I asked. Immediately, he said. I'll draft the paperwork today. But he hesitated. I have to ask, did she forge anything else? Bank authorizations? Transfers? The question chilled me. I hadn't even thought of that. I don't know, I admitted. Check everything, he said, and don't tell her you've called me yet. Let her think you're still in the dark. That day, I went to the bank. I hadn't been inside in months, but the teller recognized me right away. When I asked to review recent account activity, her polite smile faded a little. She clicked around on her computer, then quietly asked me to wait. The branch manager came out and led me to a private room. That's never a good sign. He laid a folder in front of me. Mrs. Hargrove, we've had some transfers from your savings to a new joint account, opened 3 months ago. I stared at the paper. The joint account was in my name, and Clara's. Nearly $38,000 had been withdrawn in small, careful chunks. Not enough to set off alarms, but enough to empty half of what I had left. She said you approved it, he added gently. My throat went dry. Did she sign for me? He nodded. Same signature as the one on your power of attorney file. When I got back in the car, I sat there for almost an hour before I could even start the engine. I wasn't crying. I was just numb. How do you even begin to understand that your own child, the one you'd carried and nursed and sacrificed for, would quietly bleed you dry and still call it love? That night, she called again. Hey, Mom, did you start packing yet? She chirped. I kept my voice steady. I did, actually. Went through some old papers, too. Oh. She sounded distracted, probably multitasking as always. Yes, I said softly. Found your signature a few places it shouldn't be. There was a pause. Mom, what are you talking about? You know exactly what I'm talking about. Mom, I revoked your power of attorney today, I said, cutting her off. Effective immediately. The silence on the other end was thick. Then she exhaled sharply. You can't do that. I'm just trying to help you. Help me? I said bitterly. You took my house, my money, my trust, and you call that help? She started crying, the kind of crying that used to break me when she was little. but this time it just made me tired. I didn't mean to hurt you, she said between sobs. I just needed a way out. Brian lost his job, and the bills were piling up, and... Brian, I repeated, my stomach turning. You did this for him. She didn't answer, and that told me everything. When the call ended, I sat in the dark, staring at the phone on the table. I wanted to feel hatred, but what I really felt was something worse. Disappointment so deep it almost hollowed me out. But I also felt something else starting to rise. A quiet kind of resolve. Because if she thought she could sell my life out from under me, she was about to learn that she wasn't the only one who could play the game. Revenge isn't something that comes naturally to me. I'm a mother before anything else, or at least I was. But that night, sitting alone in my living room with the sound of the ocean coming faintly through the window, I realized something. Clara had stopped being my daughter the moment she decided I was disposable. So, I stopped thinking like a mother. I started thinking like someone she shouldn't have underestimated. The next morning, I went back to Daniel's office. He already had the documents ready. Revocation of power of attorney, a cease and desist for the property sale, and a fraud notice for the bank. He pushed the papers toward me. Once these are filed, he said, no one can move a dime or a deed without your written consent. Good, I said. Now I need you to do something else. He raised an eyebrow. I want the Clearwater property transferred into a trust, I said. In my husband's name. Beneficiary. Our grandchildren. He looked at me for a long moment before nodding. You're making sure she can't touch it again. That's right, I said quietly. Let her sell what isn't hers. I'll make sure she doesn't even know what's mine anymore. That afternoon, I drove back to the beach house. I changed the locks myself. Tom had shown me how years ago, when we couldn't afford a handyman. I even laughed a little, remembering how proud he was when he made the old doorknob work again. Inside, I started packing up small things, photos, letters, anything that mattered. I wasn't leaving them for her to box up and toss out like junk. While I worked, my phone buzzed. Clara again. I let it ring. Then again. I turned it off. It wasn't until 2 days later that she showed up in person. I heard her car before I saw her. Loud music, tires crunching on the gravel. She got out with Brian beside her, both of them in sunglasses, looking more like real estate agents than family. Mom! You didn't tell me you were coming down here, she said, putting on her brightest smile. I didn't think I needed to, I replied, keeping my voice calm. Brian stepped forward. Hey, Mrs. Hargrove, we just came to grab a few things. The buyers want to walk through. There are no buyers, I said flatly. Not anymore. Clara blinked. What are you talking about? I revoked your power of attorney. The sale is frozen. You can tell your buyers to look somewhere else. She stared at me, color draining from her face. You can't just... I already did, I interrupted. And before you think about trying anything else, the house is in a trust now. You'll never be able to touch it. Brian's face twisted. That's ridiculous. We had a deal. I looked him dead in the eye. No, she had a lie. Big difference. Clara's hand started shaking. Mom, please. You don't understand. We needed this. I understand perfectly, I said, my voice trembling now. Not with fear, but with years of hurt finally surfacing. You looked at everything your father and I built, and you saw a bank account. You didn't even ask. Her eyes filled with tears. I was scared. So was I whispered. When they wheeled me into surgery last year, I signed those papers because I trusted you. I never thought you'd use them to steal from me. She reached out to touch my arm, but I stepped back. Go home, Clara. There's nothing here for you anymore. She stood there for a long time, crying quietly, until Brian muttered something under his breath and tugged her toward the car. They left without another word. As I watched them drive away, I didn't feel triumphant. I just felt empty, like I'd just finished burying something that had already been dying for years. But deep down, under the sadness, there was a flicker of peace. Because for once, I'd stopped letting her write the story. This time, I was the one holding the pen. It was 2 weeks before I heard from her again. 2 quiet weeks, where the only sounds in my house were the waves, the wind, and the occasional creak of the old floorboards. I'd started sleeping again. Not well, but better than before. I could finally make it through a day without replaying that phone call in my head. Then one morning, I looked out the kitchen window and saw a moving truck parked by the curb. Clara's silver SUV right behind it. I didn't move. I just watched. She and Brian got out, dressed like they were heading to a brunch, not a goodbye. They didn't knock. They went straight to the garage and started pulling boxes out, labeling them with black markers: kitchen, kids' room, office. They looked busy, practiced, like this was just another errand to them. After a few minutes, I stepped outside. "Morning," I said, my voice flat. Clara jumped, spinning around. "Mom, I didn't think you'd be here." "You didn't think I'd be at my own house?" I asked. She opened her mouth, then shut it again. "We're just finishing packing. Brian got a great deal on a rental in Tampa." Closer to his work, I nodded slowly. "Good for you." For a moment, we both stood there in the driveway, the salty wind whipping at our hair. I could see the confusion in her eyes, like she expected me to start yelling or crying or maybe even begging her to stay. But I didn't have it in me anymore. "Mom," she said finally, lowering her voice, "I know you're angry. I was stupid, okay? I got desperate. But I never meant to hurt you. I just thought I could fix things before you found out." I looked at her, really looked at her. And for the first time, I didn't see my little girl anymore. I saw a woman who thought she could outsmart everyone, even her own mother. "Clara," I said softly, "you keep trying to fix things by breaking them first." She winced like the words hit her. "Do you remember the night your father and I first brought you here?" I asked. "You were 6. You ran straight into the waves with all your clothes on. You told him you wanted to live in the ocean forever." Her eyes softened. "Yeah," she whispered. "I remember." "He laughed so hard that day," I said, smiling faintly. "Said maybe we'd build a house right on the sand so you could see the sea every morning. And we did." She looked down. "I ruined it." I didn't answer. The movers came out just then, carrying the last of their boxes. Brian told her they were ready to go. She nodded and turned back to me. "I'll call you when we get settled," she said. "Don't," I replied quietly. "Not until you're ready to tell the truth. To yourself, not to me." For a moment she stood frozen. Then she nodded, eyes glistening. "Goodbye, Mom." I didn't say it back. I watched as the truck pulled away, taking her life, or maybe just her illusions, with it. When they disappeared down the road, the silence that followed wasn't sad this time. It was clean. I walked back inside, opened the windows, and let the salt air fill every room. The beach house felt lighter somehow, like it could breathe again. On the table sat a folder from Daniel, the final trust papers, all signed, sealed, and filed. The property was safe now, beyond her reach. I ran my fingers over the edge of the folder and whispered, "You're home now, Tom." For the first time in months, I felt like I was too. A month passed. The air grew cooler, softer, that sweet in-between season when the tourists thin out and the beach feels like it belongs to the locals again. I spent my mornings walking along the shore, collecting shells the way I used to when Tom was alive. The house was quiet, but it didn't feel lonely anymore, just peaceful. Then, one afternoon, a letter arrived. No return address, just my name, written in my daughter's handwriting. I stared at it for a long time before opening it. Inside was a folded note and a check. "Mom," it began, "I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but I needed you to know I'm sorry. I've been taking extra shifts, and I sold Brian's car to pay back what I took from your account. It's not everything yet, but it's a start. I know you don't owe me forgiveness, but I want to earn it." At the bottom was her signature, shaky but genuine. The check was for $5,000. Not much compared to what she'd taken. But I'll admit, my hands trembled as I held it. It wasn't the money. It was the fact that she was finally trying to give something back. I didn't cash it. I put it in the drawer under Tom's old hat. Some debts aren't meant to be repaid in money. What Clara didn't know, what she still doesn't know, is that the beach house she tried to sell was already spoken for long before she ever lifted a pen. When Tom was sick before he passed, he and I set up a small secondary trust in secret. That house wasn't just property. It was meant to go to our grandchildren when they turned 21. Every last brick, every bit of sand held in their names. We never told Clara because back then we thought it would be a nice surprise someday. So even if she'd managed to push the sale through, even if she'd forged every document in the world, she never could have touched what was never truly hers. Daniel confirmed it after everything settled. The old trust was still valid, buried deep in the county records, untouched and ironclad. I almost laughed when he told me. Tom always did love his little layers of protection. So I kept quiet. I didn't tell her. I figured some lessons are stronger when they come without explanations. Now, sometimes, I sit on the porch at sunset and watch the gulls dip into the waves. I think about the day she ran into the ocean as a child, fearless and full of wonder, and I pray that someday she'll find that version of herself again, the one that didn't need to take from others to feel safe. Until then, I keep the porch light on, not as an invitation, but as a reminder that home still exists, even after you lose your way, and that forgiveness, like the tide, always comes back, just not always when you expect it to. The end.